staff are required to wear facial covering. All middle and high school children are required to wear facial covering, and elementary school kids, it's recommended, highly. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Next slide.
Well, and Brina, I want to be sure. So Monica, just before you said that, had typed in a question about being asked by a family with a teenager with mental health challenges to write a letter exempting him from wearing a mask. And then Ben stated a little more clearly about our exceptions that are able to be made for children with underlying medical, development, or behavioral conditions that would preclude the ability to wear a mask, and that, of course, it would depend on the nature of the condition. Do you want to say any more about that?
No, that's exactly right. And I know you guys all trust me and Ben and Bill, Wendy and Ashley. We worked really hard on it. So this is not an absolute. What's fascinating about the dynamics of the group is they're different than child care providers. The guy that represents the union for teachers and actually the NEA as well are very clear. Everyone should be required, including the littlest kids. So that was a bit of a compromise to get it, to have the elementary school piece be strongly recommended. And it's not over. We were asked by the large advisory group to the Agency of Education to go back to the medical people on our task force, which was Ashley, Wendy, Bill, and Ben, and also the head of the School Nurse Association, as well as the commissioner and Patsy Kelso, to revisit, are you sure we shouldn't require facial coverings in elementary school kids? So we reworked that, handed it through the commissioner to the Secretary of Education, who said, okay. And now the AOE is finalizing the document. This is still fraught with politics, and I don't know what to tell you about that. We have 4 or 5 caveats to the cloth facial covering recommendation in childcare, and in schools we've pulled those too. So requiring them means we're setting the bar, and then children where it's not developmentally appropriate, where there are too many sensory issues, or if it's not working for a variety of other reasons, it is allowed. So it's sort of required with exclusion rather than recommend. It's kind of a philosophic discussion about words and the way the way decisions get made, because child care providers pushed hard for recommend, and the teachers, the principals, the superintendents, the special educators, the school nurses, and the school psychologists all wanted required. Everyone wanted them required of elementary and high school and staff and teachers. We put in a small clause in the final guidance that pre-K, which is part of our public education system in many communities, it's a developmental decision and it's not going to fall heavily in the required category. But that's going to be nuanced and require a little bit of understanding and support. Take this with you, this slide, and think about it together with me as we continue to balance the developmental needs of kids with a pandemic. It's about choice, and children are welcome to play alone. If they want to play with a buddy, they would need to be a moose apart. And if they want to play closer in a flock, they need a facial covering mask.
Facial coverings are developmentally appropriate when children can properly put on, take off, and not touch or suck on the covering. That may...
Yeah, Becca, we gave that up to the governor. I was disappointed that that didn't come out louder today at the press conference. Maybe it was hard for me to follow because I am remote, but we were very clear on that, and that needed to be more promoted. So I really want you all to make sure that your communities know.
You are correct, Brina, that children with well-controlled asthma, mild to moderate asthma, are allowed to wear a mask, that we recommend they wear a mask, and that if a child with mild to moderate or well-controlled asthma cannot wear a mask, then they should see their primary care physician or pulmonologist to figure out why their asthma isn't better controlled.
Physical, developmental, and behavioral conditions that might make wearing a mask unsafe for children are very rare. And again, some of those then are delineated. And a point is made that in most cases, a child who is unable to wear a mask safely for medical reasons should not attend school in person. So with the return to school algorithm and the disposition document, I would say is that when you receive a request for a mask exemption, what we hope is that this, is a document that you can share and will essentially be the response to that request.